Mongol Empire. On February 10, 1258, the Mongol army under Hulagu Khan surrounded Baghdad, the jewel of the Islamic world. The city housed nearly 1 million people and contained the House of Wisdom, humanity's greatest collection of knowledge. Caliph al-Mustasim refused to surrender, believing his massive walls would protect him. He was wrong. After a 13-day siege, the Mongols breached the defenses. What followed was systematic extermination. Hulagu ordered every living soul in the city killed. Mongol soldiers went house to house, dragging families into the streets. Children were torn from their mothers' arms and thrown against walls. The elderly were trampled under horses' hooves. Scholars who had spent lifetimes preserving human knowledge were butchered alongside their books. The Tigris River ran red with blood for days and black with ink from destroyed manuscripts. Priceless works of science, philosophy, and literature were used as kindling. When the massacre ended, historians estimate between 200,000 and 800,000 people lay dead. The city that had been called the Round City of Peace became a tomb. Baghdad's population wouldn't recover for centuries, and the Islamic Golden Age died with it. Roman Empire. In 70 AD, Roman legions under Titus surrounded Jerusalem after a brutal 4-year revolt. The siege lasted months, and starvation consumed the city. Josephus recorded that mothers ate their own children to survive. When the walls finally fell, Roman fury was unleashed without mercy. Titus ordered the temple destroyed stone by stone. Soldiers set fire to the sacred building, while thousands of Jews had taken refuge inside. The screams of burning people echoed across the city as Roman troops prevented anyone from escaping the flames. Those who survived the inferno faced worse fates. Roman soldiers crucified so many Jews that wood for crosses ran out. Forests around Jerusalem were stripped bare to provide more crucifixes. The dead hung from every tree and post for miles. Survivors were sold into slavery by the thousands. Children were separated from parents and shipped to arenas across the empire to die for entertainment. Women were forced into brothels. Titus celebrated his victory by forcing captured Jewish leaders to watch their sons executed, then had the fathers' eyes gouged out so the last thing they saw was their children's deaths. Over 1 million Jews died during the siege and its aftermath. The temple's treasures were paraded through Rome, and the city was renamed to erase Jewish identity forever. Assyrian Empire. In 701 BC, Assyrian king Sennacherib approached the fortified city of Lachish in Judah with 185,000 soldiers. The city's defenders, led by King Hezekiah's general, prepared for siege. They had no idea what horrors awaited them. After breaching the walls, Sennacherib ordered a display of cruelty that shocked even hardened warriors. Captured soldiers were impaled alive on wooden stakes, carefully positioned so death would take hours. The stakes were arranged in perfect rows outside the city walls like a grotesque garden. Civilians weren't spared. Assyrian soldiers flayed the city's nobles alive, peeling their skin off in strips while they screamed. The skins were then stretched over wooden frames and displayed as banners. Children were forced to watch their parents die slowly before being taken as slaves. But Sennacherib's cruelty extended beyond individuals. He ordered the entire population relocated thousands of miles away, breaking up families permanently. Babies were ripped from mothers and given to strangers. Husbands and wives were sent to opposite ends of the empire. The goal was to destroy not just bodies, but identities and cultures. Sennacherib had reliefs carved in his palace, showing these tortures in graphic detail, wanting visitors to see exactly what rebellion cost. The message worked. Surrounding cities surrendered without fighting rather than face Lachish's fate. Aztec Empire. On December 7, 1487, Aztec Emperor Ahuitzotl prepared to dedicate the expanded Great Temple of Tenochtitlan with the largest human sacrifice in recorded history. Thousands of prisoners from recent conquests stood in lines stretching for miles through the city. The ceremony began at dawn. 4 priests seized the first victim, a young warrior from Tlatelolco, and bent him backward over the sacrificial stone. High Priest Tlaxcalel raised the obsidian knife above his head, then plunged it into the man's chest. His ribs cracked as the priest's hand forced deeper, searching for the beating heart. When he found it, he tore it out still pumping and held it toward the sun, while blood poured down the temple steps. The body was thrown down the pyramid, where it landed with a sickening thud on the pile of corpses below. The killing continued without pause. Men, women, and children were sacrificed in assembly line fashion. Some victims were drowned for the rain god Tlaloc. Others had their skin peeled off while alive for Sheep Totek. For 4 straight days, the slaughter continued. Blood flowed like rivers down the temple steps, creating pools that attracted clouds of flies. The stench became overwhelming, but the priests pressed on. By the ceremony's end, an estimated 20,000 people had been butchered. Their skulls were added to the tsompantli, massive racks displaying thousands of human heads as warnings to enemies. Belgian Congo. On March 15, 1903, Belgian officer Léon Fiévez received orders from King Leopold II's administrators. Increase rubber production in his district by any means necessary. The Congo Free State existed solely to enrich Leopold, and rubber meant everything. Fiévez gathered village chiefs and explained the new quota system with chilling precision. Each village must provide a set amount of rubber monthly or face consequences. When the chief of Bolama village failed to meet his quota, Fiévez made an example. He ordered his force publique soldiers to surround the village at dawn. Men, women, and children were dragged from their huts as they screamed in terror. Fiévez lined up 20 villagers, including the chief's young son, and ordered them shot, but death wasn't enough. He commanded his soldiers to cut off the right hands of everyone killed, as proof the bullets hadn't been wasted. The severed hands were smoked to preserve them, then delivered to Fiévez's superiors as evidence. The remaining villagers were forced to watch as their relatives' hands were collected like trophies. Children as young as 5 had their hands hacked off for their parents' failures. Some survived the amputation and lived as permanent reminders of Belgian brutality. Villages across the Congo soon displayed baskets of smoked human hands as warnings. Conservative estimates suggest 10 million Congolese died during Leopold's reign, though the true number may never be known since entire communities were wiped out completely. British Empire. On April 13, 1919, thousands of Indians gathered peacefully in Jallianwala Bagh, an enclosed garden in Amritsar, to celebrate Baisakhi festival and protest recent arrests. Brigadier General Reginald Dyer had banned all gatherings, but many attendees were unaware. At 4:30 p.m., Dyer arrived with 90 soldiers armed with rifles. Without warning or order to disperse, he commanded his men to open fire on the trapped crowd. Panic erupted instantly as bullets tore through families enjoying their holiday. People trampled each other, desperately seeking escape, but Dyer had positioned his troops to block the main exit. The garden became a killing ground with nowhere to run. Dyer ordered his soldiers to aim where the crowd was thickest, ensuring maximum casualties. For 10 straight minutes, rifle fire echoed off the walls as hundreds fell. Mothers threw themselves over their children, only to be shot in the back. Men tried to lift wounded relatives, but were cut down themselves. Some jumped into a deep well to escape the bullets, only to drown as more bodies fell on top of them. When ammunition ran low, Dyer finally ordered a ceasefire. He left immediately without providing medical aid or allowing rescue workers to help the wounded. Bodies lay scattered across the garden like broken dolls. Official British records claim 379 died, but Indian estimates put the number over 1,000. Dyer later testified he would have used machine guns if available, showing no remorse for the massacre. Soviet Union under Stalin. On December 27, 1929, Stalin announced the liquidation of kulaks as a class, targeting wealthy peasants who opposed collective farming. In the Ukrainian village of Kopanki, NKVD officers arrived before dawn with predetermined lists. Ivan Marchenko, a farmer who owned 3 cows, was labeled a kulak enemy of the people. Officers dragged him from his bed as his wife and children screamed. They gave his family 15 minutes to pack before forcing them into cattle cars bound for Siberian labor camps. The journey took 2 weeks in freezing conditions without food or water. Children died in their mothers' arms as the train rolled through the wilderness. At the Nazino Island camp, guards dumped thousands of deportees on barren ground with no shelter or tools. They were told to build socialism, but given nothing to survive with. Cannibalism began within days as people starved. Parents ate their dead children to stay alive. Guards watched the horror unfold, some taking bets on who would die next. Meanwhile, back in Ukraine, Stalin implemented his engineered famine, the Holodomor. NKVD units confiscated all grain, including seed for next year's planting. Peasants were forbidden from leaving their villages, trapped to starve. Parents fed their children wallpaper paste and ground tree bark. Some resorted to eating their own children to survive. Between 1932 and 1933, an estimated 3.9 million Ukrainians starved to death while Soviet grain was exported abroad. Stalin called it breaking the backbone of the peasantry. Nazi Third Reich. On January 20, 1942, SS Obergruppenführer Reinhard Heydrich chaired the Wannsee Conference, where Nazi officials planned the final solution with bureaucratic precision. 3 months later, the first deportation trains arrived at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Sarah Nomberg-Psetik, a Polish Jewish woman, stepped off the cattle car with her 5-year-old daughter after 3 days without food or water. SS guards separated them immediately, pushing children and elderly to the left, while able-bodied adults went right. Sarah didn't know she was seeing her daughter for the last time. Dr. Josef Mengele stood at the selection ramp in his pristine uniform, pointing left or right with his riding crop. Those sent left walked directly to gas chambers disguised as shower rooms. Guards told them they were being deloused and ordered them to undress and hang their clothes on numbered hooks, promising they could retrieve them later. Mothers clutched babies as they were herded naked into the chambers. When the doors sealed, Zyklon B pellets were dropped through roof vents. The poison took 20 agonizing minutes to kill everyone inside. Sonderkommando prisoners, mostly Jews forced to assist in the killing process, then removed gold teeth and cut off hair before burning the bodies. They found scratch marks on the chamber walls where victims had clawed desperately trying to escape. At peak efficiency, Auschwitz murdered 6,000 people daily. Over 6 years, Nazi Germany systematically murdered 6 million Jews plus millions of others deemed undesirable, industrializing genocide on an unprecedented scale.